to the award-winning Performance Matters podcast from GP Strategies, the learning velocity company. In a world moving at the pace of AI, each episode brings you practical ideas and real experiences from industry experts to help your people learn with the speed, relevance, and quality that drive real performance. I'm Michael Thiel, and I'm honored to be your host. Whether you are a first-time listener or a longtime friend of the show, we're glad you're here. Today, we're kicking off something I've had circled on my calendar for quite some time, the Learning Velocity Sessions, a 3-part deep dive into why learning is having a moment, a big one. Quick thought to start us off. If your business needed a brand new capability next quarter, could your organization learn fast enough to deliver it? That's basically the heartbeat of the Learning Velocity Guide from GP Strategies. If you haven't checked it out yet, trust me, it's worth a download and it's worth a read. It raises some big questions and a few uncomfortable ones too. To help me get the series launched the right way, I've invited someone who really sets the tone for the whole thing, GP Strategies Chief Executive Officer, JF Vézina. As you'll discover, JF brings the big picture stake-setting energy that I think is a perfect place to start. JF, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Michael. I'm looking forward to it. I had circled the date as well.
This is big news here, so I know your time is precious, so let's just start here, okay? Right up top in the Learning Velocity Guide, you say, in fact, the old playbook for workforce development, well, it just doesn't work anymore. So from your perspective, what finally broke it?
If you think about the old model in terms of skills development or learning and development, it had a long shelf life. We would have learning programs that could last for a year or even sometimes multiple years at a time, getting people through. And you would get people trained once, either during a course or over a period of time, certify them and just move on to the next step. That model just doesn't work to the same effect anymore. AI didn't just accelerate change, it compressed the timeline so dramatically as well that by the time traditional programs launches and that you've built them, that content or that program is already defunct, and the skills that it was built around have already evolved. So organizations need to move much faster than before, and we see it constantly. Organizations spending months designing a program for a capability the business needed last quarter, and the capabilities that they need in the current quarter or the next quarter are going to be different. So that old playbook was built for stability. It was built for business as usual, but we're operating in a continuous disruption right now at a pace that's faster than we've seen in years, if ever. And learning has to be built for the reality of today, not the one of tomorrow.
Absolutely. I've seen it too. You know, a shiny new program launches and the business has already passed it. We're at a point where timing is everything. And you know, that brings me to another question, and that is, you position learning velocity as a competitive advantage. So not just more training. So just break this down for me. In your mind, how do they differ?
More training is about volume, and it's about quite static performance or static training, if you will, or learning that you provide to people. Learning velocity is about speed to capability. And I want to be clear here, velocity is not just about speed. There's different components to that. How fast can you close the gap between what your people know today and what the business needs them to do tomorrow? How quick can you be on that? But the organizations winning right now aren't necessarily spending the most. They're the ones that are building the capabilities at the right time and getting them to the right people fast enough to actually change performance and impact what performance looks like. I said earlier, learning velocity is not just about speed. It has 3 key components. Speed is part of that, but we also need to build on relevance and we need to build on quality. So you need all 3. Just having one of those, just being fast, is irrelevant and it's just noise. High quality but slow is just too late. So the goal isn't a bigger catalog, it's a shorter distance between awareness and productivity or business outcome.
Yeah, I love that. And something that I really took away from that is it's not the volume, it's speed to capability. I might need to put that on a t-shirt there. That's a totally different game. So another thing that I noticed you mentioned in your forward here is you talk about a widening gap between learning teams who are strategic partners and those who
Mhm.
are stuck as order takers. So I know you're speaking to a lot of leaders out there. What's showing up?
In our research, it's measuring the business impact of learning 2025, we see that only 19% of learning and development teams were seen as a strategic partners by the organization. That number should alarm every learning leader. The order taker model, as you mentioned, it's reactive by design. Someone asks for a course, you build a course, and then you're always one step behind of the business. We need to understand what's the root cause. Why do they feel like they need that course? What is the business impact that they're trying to influence? Strategic partners are in the room before the need in the crisis. Before the need is also a crisis. They're diagnosing the capability gaps alongside the business leaders and helping them figure out the root cause, helping them figure out what they truly need, not waiting for a request to land in the queue or a ticket to be in the queue. So the divide that we're seeing is widening because the pace of change rewards the partners and exposes the order takers and punishes the order takers as well. So there's less and less tolerance for slow or disconnected L&D. There's an increased need, especially in this case, to connect that business impact, that business performance to how we improve performance and how we improve human learning in the flow.
I love it. And, I've seen it. I'm been in this industry now for 2 decades. If you get labeled as an order taker within that L&D world, it's hard to shake it. It kind of sticks like super glue here. So obviously at GP, we strive to be a strategic partner here. So I want to ask you this: what's separating the teams that are getting it right? So what's, from your perspective, the real differentiator? Is it mindset, structure, leadership? Like what's the X factor, Jeff?
I think understanding and starting with how they define success. How do teams define success? How do the organization and the different functions define success as well? Are you measuring completions or are you measuring whether performance actually changed and the outcome of the teams or the people changed? The teams getting it right have shifted from delivering training, which is more input based, if you will, and to enabling performance, which is more output and outcome based. So how are you measuring that? That's not just a language change. It changes how you build, it changes how you measure, it changes who you talk to and how you talk to them as well. The entire context and the entire purview changes. They've built in the infrastructure for velocity as well. So modular content, AI-enabled tools, measurement systems that connect learning activity to business outcomes as well. We see quite often organizations having business outcomes data sitting on one end, HR data sitting on the other end, and then learning data sitting completely different. How can you connect those so that you have a much better linear view between learning, human skills, and output or business outcomes? Honestly, it's a mindset. The best learning leaders I see treat velocity as a core discipline, and not just a budget line or a technology decision.
Yeah, I love that idea that you just mentioned. Mindset, not a budget line, linking to real business outcomes, or as you just said, outputs. I love that. So, Jeff, there's a bold idea in the guide here, and that is AI shifting from a productivity tool to a performance teammate. So, from your seat, is that happening yet, or are we sort of, in a sense, still warming up?
What I'm seeing is that we're still in the early stages. Most organizations are still at the personal productivity phase where AI is helping individuals work faster, but it's not yet integrated in how the business performs. It's a tool to decide. The shift to performance teammate happens when AI is embedded into the workflows, not sitting at the surface of them. And we have to rethink workflows as well. The weird workflows of tomorrow might need to change in this world. When it's surfacing knowledge at the moment of need, coaching performance in real time and helping people make better decisions, that's the frontier about how we help people getting to those decisions much faster. For people to understand how that changes their day-to-day workflow, how that changes their day-to-day work, and how that changes how they get to the outcome that they're trying to drive. Getting there requires treating AI integration as an operating model shift. So it's not just a tooling exercise. You have to redesign how the work happens, not just how people are using a new tool. You have to rethink as well for leaders, how are you leading now teams in a different fashion that have a different workflow, and how are they now producing a different outcome? So the learning function has a huge role to play here, because the bridge between AI capability and human performance is learning, is skilling. And how are we bring that to life for organizations?
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm hearing from you is there's not a lot of integration yet. That's sort of a bit more on the frontier, but that's where we need to get to truly make this a productivity partner. Fair enough?
Yeah, absolutely. And reviewing all of the core processes that we've been following for years and rethinking those as well at the foundation level.
Yeah. So on that note, then, from what you're seeing, because I know you're speaking with leaders all across the country, across industries, across the globe here. From your perspective, what's the most common misconception you see from leaders when they talk about AI strategy?
One of the biggest misconceptions is that AI is primarily a technology problem. That if you deploy the right tools and train people, adoption will follow. Well, it won't, and it shows that it won't, not at least reliably and not at scale. Our research shows that the real barrier is actually human. We studied hundreds of leaders and found that the mindsets most essential for effective leadership today are broadly understood. Leaders know what good looks like. What's getting in the way is fear, subtle, persistent. It's also rarely named. We see that. I mean, a lot of newsrooms sell themselves out through fear right now, through creating sentiments, and that's the main thing. When you read in the papers about AI, what do you read? You don't read about all the beautiful things. You read about job losses, about change in the market. That creates fear in the workforce and in leaders as well. So think about what AI actually asks for a leader. Embrace uncertainty, move before you feel ready, trust your team to experiment. Every one of those behaviors runs into a fear our research keeps surfacing. Fear of being wrong, fear of failing publicly, fear of losing control. Those are now the new normal. Organizations are getting results from AI. They've built the psychological safety and leadership infrastructure that make courageous adoption possible. And it's not just in the technical infrastructure. It's really about how you accept that people will try things and will fail and will learn from that. We see a high fail rates of AI initiatives in the market, and that's okay. Part of it is okay because part of it is because people tried, they're trying, they're experimenting, they're failing, they're learning, and then they're succeeding. Part of it is also pure human adoption where they're not supported properly, and we need to look at things differently as well. So technology accelerates change, but people drive performance. And that's why we keep people at the center of every AI transformation that we lead.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, that whole idea that the notion of the tech will magically fix it, that's a myth. What you're saying is the leadership is the driver and really the change there. And speaking of change, we are in 2026. We don't always love to date our podcast, but in the Learning Velocity Guide, you call 2026 a real turning point. So why now, JF?
Well, by the end of 2026, we believe the L&D function will split decisively into two camps. Organizations where learning is a genuine strategic performance and a driver, and organizations where it faces aggressive cost containment and consolidation. So we're going to start to see this shift. AI is no longer emerging, it's operating. Organizations that haven't started building real learning velocity, they're already behind. And then the competitive gap between organizations that can build capabilities fast and those that can't is becoming visible in the numbers, not just from a learning perspective, but from a business outcome perspective as well. We will look at retention, time to competency, revenue growth, and the ability to execute on the strategy. So the runway that we used to benefit, that's gone. So decision leaders make about learning and capability development in 2026. That's going to shape the competitive position for the years to come.
I love it. So you're saying the runway's gone. We're airborne, right? So whether we play in the takeoff or not, we're out there, we're flying. We've got to make some things happen here. Let's talk about this. We know there's some listeners, some organizations out there that are maybe saying, you know what, I'm a little behind here. From your perspective, what's the real first step?
Clarity before action is the first thing I would mention. So before you invest in new technology or redesign your learning function, get honest about where the real gap is. Is it strategy? Is it governance? Is it measurement? Is it capability? Is it alignment? We use a diagnostic approach, which is an honest assessment of where your learning function stands against where the business needs to be. Without that, you end up solving the wrong problem faster. We talk about not falling in love with the solution, fall in love with the problem. So it's important to understand what is it you're trying to solve. Start with a specific high-stakes business challenge that learning can visibly impact. Win there first. That builds the credibility and the proof of concept to go broader and earns you the right to go broader across the organization as well. And don't try to boil the ocean. Build incremental measurement capability, find early wins, create momentum. Momentum compounds. So if you can create that flywheel, that helps you accelerate as you go.
I like that. And I like that notion of gaining clarity before the chaos. I love that. That's great here. So now, if you could give every learning leader out there just one mindset shift, what would it be?
Stop thinking of learning as a service that you deliver and start thinking of it as a performance condition you're responsible for. You're responsible for the performance of the humans and performance of the organization. That shift in mindset changes everything in my experience. How you prioritize, what you measure, who you partner with, how you partner with them, and how you prove your value to the business as well. How you earn that seat at the table. The learning leaders who will thrive are the ones who are, see their role as building organizational capability at the speed of business change. That's a definite winner from a mindset perspective. So not managing a catalog or fulfill requests, but being accountable and responsible for building organizational capability. In a world also that's moving at the pace of AI, the question is not about did people complete the training? That's not a question anymore we should ask ourselves. It's did the performance change? That's the standard that we should all be holding ourselves accountable to. So how are we changing the course? How are we impacting performance? How are we linking performance and doing the right action so that we can see that improvement and that direct impact for a business?
Well said. And I will say that sets us up perfectly for episodes 2 and 3. So Jeff, this was awesome. I want to thank you for carving time out of your busy schedule here and helping just set the tone for this series. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, Michael.
All right, listeners, up next, episode 2 with Matt Donovan and Ella Richardson, where we shift from why this matters to what it actually looks like inside an organization. And before you forget, make sure to grab the Learning Velocity Guide. It's the perfect companion to all 3 episodes. Thanks for listening to the award-winning Performance Matters podcast, brought to you by GP Strategies, the Learning Velocity Company. For 60 years, we've helped organizations build capability with the speed, relevance, and quality that make real performance possible. You can subscribe to the show anywhere you get podcasts or listen on our website at gpstrategies.com.